QuietKills is right. Dead by Daylight does fucking suck. Every game feels like I have a car battery attached to my nipples, and I'm at the mercy of behavior on whether or not they want to shock me. I have this extreme of a reaction because after another day of getting robbed blind by behavior's bugs and people DCing because they are tired, the state of the game currently is abysmal. And even though this is what our games look like, there's people in the community saying stuff like this. The game is overall killer-sided throughout its whole life. Play both then. You complain too much. It's not that bad, champ. Maybe go out and enjoy the day. Read a book or something. Toxic killer main crying that the world is against them. Now that's newsworthy. I just hear a bunch of skill issues from this guy. Is this game even salvageable? That last guy is right. Is this game salvageable? Because all of the people before him and those like them are the reason why big Dead by Daylight content creators don't talk about the glaring issues this game has, and why any real chance of the game evolving gets halted by individualistic mindsets like this. And those currently who seem to agree with those comments, QuietKills frequently challenges people like this all of the time on his live streams, so they can prove their point that killer is easy and tunneling and slugging is not necessary. But more often than not, they completely reject the offer, and those who do accept struggle to even get a singular kill. I'm further going to explain why Dead by Daylight has felt so bad lately, and more importantly, what would actually need to change in order to fix it. The two biggest issues people constantly bring up is solo queue feeling miserable to play, and most killers on the roster just feeling downright unbearable. But both of these problems can be linked to one source: survive with friends. The mere possibility of a coordinated 4-stack forces killers to play like every match is a tournament. This causes killers to start running their strongest builds, every slowdown, every meta perk, just to keep up with something that might not even be in their lobby. And even with full meta builds, while playing well, most killers stand no chance. So what does this lead to? People playing top killers because losing to something with no real counter is not fun, or you get rolled. Which is why when you're playing solo queue survivor, your matches start to look like this: ghoul, ghoul again, nurse, and then ghoul one more time. So now you're stuck in solo queue, getting some of the worst teammates imaginable, but losing games because of zero communication tools, no planning, and no way to adapt mid-match. This then forces you to use a perk to give and receive info that the same two people who bullied the killer in the match before get just by being in a Discord call. And the main reason playing matches like this feels so bad is you don't know if you're going to go up against the sweatiest team imaginable and you're not prepared, or if you're about to go against the worst team imaginable and what you have is considered overkill. And even in my own experiences, I understand both sides of this story. While trying to do a challenge on Springtrap that involved me running randomized perks, I constantly came into full meta survivor builds. And on the other hand, while playing solo queue survivor for 12 hours, the most common killer I went up against was ghoul, and oftentimes my teammates didn't have the information or strong enough builds to keep up with it, resulting in losing most of my matches. But when people try to talk about this topic, that's when ego takes over. You lost me the second you complain about killer being hard to play. Instead of addressing any of the real problems, players resort to saying, "That's just your experience. I don't have that problem. You're just bad." Yet they refuse to admit that their own role looks exactly like that every single game, and would rather put down other people for enjoying the opposite role and see that as an attack on their character. This exact mindset creates a divide in the community. This then turns into more pointless arguing between players. These nonsensical responses and refusal to address the points made in these videos is why this game will not improve in the near future. And because of that, more and more things like this are going to happen. Bugs like this that virtually make it impossible to win are constantly flooding in DBD, from every update to even the mini patches that release throughout the months. A bug like this is unplayable, but as people, we need to understand that we bought a product, and we deserve a right to a better product. Putting out your concerns for a game you paid for that you like to play in your free time shouldn't result in you being ridiculed for your takes. Not agreeing with someone's balanced takes is completely fine, but to sit there and tell someone that this game is currently in a good state is straight up laughable. The current state of the game makes everybody feel like no matter how much effort and time they put in, it's like none of it even matters. And you can see the results of that right here. Players aren't even trying anymore. They load in, see it's something they don't find fun, and DC with minor penalty, just so they can do it again and again and again. That's what happens when a game system pushes players to feel like their time isn't valued. And it's also the main reason why there's such a high hour gap in Dead by Daylight players. Those with only a few thousands of hours tend to leave because they've done everything. They've unlocked every perk, they have nothing to grind for, and they know all the small issues in the game won't get fixed and they won't be heard. Those with tens of thousands of hours end up making content, receiving rewards from behavior, further lowering their reasons to speak out. But with every new chapter, we get more and more new players who will eventually come and the cycle will continue. So what actually needs to change? We would need real solo queue communication tools, whether it be a voice chat or a ping system. Killer powers are getting stronger and stronger and even more complicated, and having a way for solo queue to fight back as a team would allow many more balance changes to follow suit. This would reduce the gap between Swift and solo queue players without buffing Survive with Friends in the process. And the other major change we will need to see is within the maps themselves. Personally, I think removing RNG from every map would be the greatest solution, but a more likely answer would be to balance maps by tiers of killer. More resources against the stronger killers and less against the weaker ones. After these two major changes were to occur, making small perk tweaks would be very easy. This would also allow weaker killers to not be forced to run quad slowdown, and even if they do, solo queue would now be able to react better with the new communication system. And people need to realize, the more that behavior tries to get rid of strategies like tunneling and slugging, the more killers look the same as well as their builds, which then leads to survivor builds looking the same, making an infinite cycle of despair. But remember, if Dead by Daylight does not want to add a ranked and wants to feed into the casual party mode, playing one side of that party should not be unbearable. But if none of these changes happen, we're going to keep seeing burnt out killers, frustrated solo queue players, repetitive matches, and a community that argues instead of improving the game. And the worst part is, none of these are unfixable, but it won't get fixed, because every time someone brings it up, it just gets dismissed. Thank you guys for watching to the end of the video. I was initially gonna do my next game show, but playing Dead by Daylight recently has just kind of been incredibly unfun for me. But if the game continues to go in the direction that it's going, I don't expect to make many more challenge videos. I might end up only doing the game show ones or just entirely stop playing Dead by Daylight. I do want to thank you guys for watching and liking those videos. They've been incredibly fun to make, and I'm glad they're being perceived as such. But let's hope that year 10 is actually a good year, because I know the last 3 years that we thought it was going to be good, we all know what happened.